Hey Mary, I just wanted to let you know that I'm about to go home, but I was going to bring a couple of coworkers home with me today.
Oh, I see. Were you all planning on drinking at house tonight then?
That was the plan, yes. Why do you ask? Is something the matter with that?
Well, it's just that we talked about this earlier, but moving around for me right now is really, really difficult. And it's already plenty hard just keeping up with all of the housework by myself as things are. So I don't mind if you bring your friends over to our place, just please don't ask me to do any hosting for them.
Oh, come on. Surely you can at least throw together some dishes for us to share while they are over here, right? I mean, they are coming over as guests after all. The least we should do is try and be good hosts to them, don't you think?
This is how it starts, but I know that once we run out of food, you're going to ask me to go out and get you all more. Either that or send me back to the kitchen to something else for you all.
And is that really so bad? It's only going to be little things. It's not really that big of a deal, you know?
You do know that I'm about to have a baby any week now, right? I mean, we really are in the final countdown. It's really uncomfortable and even painful to be standing up all day. It really puts a strain on my lower back, and I just can't handle it anymore.
Okay, Mary. I think you're starting to make this whole pregnancy excuse way too far. I mean, you're carrying a baby. It isn't like you're sick or something like that. My office also lets women take off work as they get further on into their pregnancy, but I've seen plenty of women continue working in spite of that.
Well, I just hope that they had the freedom to choose whether or not they were going to continue to work. But anyways, I would appreciate if you didn't compare me to other people. I'm just telling you how I feel.
Well, I think that you're starting to use this as a crutch to get out of doing things that you just don't want to do. I mean, did you not think this would happen? Did you think that you would be totally comfortable all throughout your pregnancy? Or did you just think that the whole world would stop for you and hold your hand through this?
Of course I didn't think everyone was going to let me do whatever I wanted just because I'm pregnant.
Well, it sure seems that way. It feels like you're expecting everyone else to put their lives on pause until you have this kid. You're not going into the office to work anymore. And at home, all you do is complain about how you're too uncomfortable to do housework.
I really don't think that you're being fair to me, Joe. I mean, am I not cooking all the meals at home every day? I also have to go to the store to buy everything that we eat. I feel like I've run a marathon by the time I get home.
Hey, if all I had to do was a little shopping and some cooking, you have no idea how lucky I would feel. Do you think women back in the day complained as much as women in our generation? No. They had plenty of kids and turned out just fine. My mom told me all about how she tried to continue keeping up with the housework even while she was pregnant with me. She told me that if she didn't take care of things around the house that my dad certainly wasn't going to be. So I think when you compare that to today, when we have so many appliances and tools to make our life easier, you really don't have any room to complain.
So you really think that everything in your parents' days was perfect and that women didn't have any of the issues they have today?
There you go, trying to twist my words around. What I'm saying is that for thousands of years, women have had kids without having to complain about it. I think you're just being a bit selfish the way that you're acting right now. So you're going to quit your whining, make something for me and my friends, and then I want you to go out and buy us some booze, okay?
Joe, please, I just told you that it's really uncomfortable to have to move and especially leave the house.
Oh my gosh, it really isn't that complicated at all. Just bring one of those baskets on wheels that we bought for you earlier. That should solve all your problems.
Right. I guess there's really just no point in trying to convince you, is there?
You know, I'm really getting sick of your attitude. I mean, you do know that I'm telling you to do all this for your own sake, don't you?
In what ways is any of this being done for my sake? You can't really mean that, right?
I mean that while you're pregnant, you've really been packing on the pounds. And I know that you like blaming everything on the baby, but it's not going to work this time.
I agree that I probably have put on a few pounds since getting pregnant, but I think that you're over-exaggerating just a bit.
Yeah, I thought you would say something like that. All I'm saying is there are plenty of doctors and magazines out there that all agree it's good for pregnant women to get some exercise now and then. So why don't you take their medical advice and move your body some, huh? Because otherwise, you're never going to lose that baby weight.
Okay, fine. I'll go out and buy some food and drinks for you and your friends. But I don't have to go out again to buy even more later. Do you understand me? I am going to go to bed early tonight and I do not want to be disturbed.
So that's the impression that you want to give my workers of how we live at home? That you go to bed early and leave me to my own devices all the time?
I really don't think that most husbands would be asking so much of their pregnant wives to begin with.
There we go. Anytime I make a good case against your attitude, you always just have to pull the pregnancy card on me, don't you?
Joe, I'm getting ready to leave the house and go shopping right now.
That's right. You better go and do that before I get even more upset with you. And don't forget about something for us all to eat when you get back home too. I know I said something small would work, but you're still cooking for 3 grown men.
Joe, can you please just let me in the house already? This is ridiculous.
No. This is your fault, and I won't let you back in until I think you've learned your lesson.
In what way is any of this my fault? You're the one who showed up with a bunch of friends from work all of a sudden. I told you all day yesterday about how horrible I was feeling, and then you go and do this to me?
Well, it's your fault that everyone went home early. I told you I wanted the house clean and dinner ready before I got back from work. But you couldn't even do that for me, could you?
That's because I told you that I was feeling awful. I could hardly even move. Besides, I told you that I was going to be resting in bed all day before you started to boss me around.
Here we go again with the pregnancy excuse. I know that all you do at home is just roll around doing nothing. The least you could do is try and keep the house clean while you're there, you know? But it's your fault that everyone went home. You totally ruined the mood.
Look, Joe, I told you that if you bring your friends over to drink, that I don't mind them staying here late into the night. I mean, you do realize that I'm supposed to be having this baby in just a couple of weeks, don't you?
And just what does that have to do with me, huh?
Did you really just ask that? Do you really think this baby has nothing to do with you?
I just mean that you're always complaining about being too tired, but you always seem to have the energy to argue with me. It sounds to me like you're nothing but a faker. I bet you feel fine and you're just upset that you won't be able to milk this in a couple of weeks.
I really don't even know what to say to that. I just really hope that you don't actually think that's what's happening. You know, I never took you for the kind of person to act this way before I got pregnant. You realize that we made the baby I'm carrying, right? I had hoped that you would have wanted more to do with the pregnancy, but all you've done is boss me around and make me feel like a burden for carrying our child. I know that you probably can't ever imagine what I'm going through, but there are some nights I'm too uncomfortable to even sleep.
So that's your problem? You can't get enough sleep? So what? I'm sure that you nap plenty throughout the day.
Of course that's not it. I am in so much pain and discomfort in my feet, my back, my stomach, all of it.
You really think that gives you an excuse to be as lazy as you are? You know what I do after a night of hard drinking? I show up to work the next day hungover and tired, but I still do my job.
Those two things are completely different, and you know it.
I know that now. You're just mad because I made another good point. Now you can't use your pregnancy to get out of it. Maybe you should go spend a night on the street just so you can realize how nice you actually have it.
Do you have any idea what month it is, Joe? If I have to sleep out here, I am going to freeze.
Oh, please. You're so fat that I doubt you can even feel how cold it is out there tonight. But if you do get a little chilly, go on a run. The exercise will do you good. But don't think for a second about calling anyone for help and telling them about this. If you do, then I'm going to ask for a divorce right then and there.
But I don't even have my wallet, and I'm not even wearing a jacket right now.
You think I don't know what you're trying to pull here? We both know that you have credit cards saved on that phone. Well, I'm telling you now that you aren't allowed to use any of it. Put your phone in the mailbox. I'll collect it later.
You can't be serious, right? You really don't care at all that you're about to make your pregnant wife sleep on the cold streets tonight?
You really think that anybody's going to do anything to a gross fatty like you? Why don't you just hang out around the park near our house? I'll go and pick you up tomorrow. But if you're not there, then we're going to be getting a divorce. I really mean this. I'm not afraid to make you raise that child all by yourself.
Hey, pick up the phone right now, you creep. I mean it.
I don't wanna. You can't make me take your call.
This is no time for you to be acting this way, Joe.
But you've been messaging me all day. I don't want to talk to you if you're just going to yell at me.
Just answer the phone right now. I am serious. You're an adult, Joe. Stop acting like this.
You think I want to hear your terrible voice the first thing in the morning? Do you have any idea just how hungover I am?
You're hungover? Well, that just makes all of this that much worse. Do you know that?
How dare you talk to your older brother like this, Maggie? You need to show me some respect.
Maybe I will when you earn it. The only thing I really wanted to tell you was to come to our parents' place right away.
And just why would I want to drive all the way over there, huh? Are Mom and Dad dying? Did someone have a heart attack or something?
What happened is that you kicked your pregnant wife out on the cold streets, and now we're all here apologizing to her.
Wait, what? What do you mean? Mary is there with you all?
I mean, I still can't believe that you would really do something like this. Don't you know that Mary is already 9 months pregnant? You're just awful, Joe.
Oh, please. I'm not the bad guy in this at all. You can't let Mary fool you with her crocodile tears. Mary is always using being pregnant as an excuse to do whatever she wants. I was just teaching her a lesson that it wasn't going to work forever.
Mary told me that you were complaining to her because you didn't think she was cleaning the house well enough. Not only that, she told me that you kept bringing over colleagues to have parties at home with.
Wait a second. How did you even find out that I kicked Mary out? I mean, I took her phone and wallet and everything. Don't tell me that she walked all the way to Mom and Dad's or something. That would be impossible. Although if she did, it would only prove that she was lying about how discomfortable she was.
You really are an idiot. Do you know that? Do you really think that someone in Mary's condition would make it all the way here by herself? Actually, a police officer saw Mary sitting all alone in the park shivering.
Wait, you mean the cops brought her to you?
Well, they were wondering what a pregnant woman was doing in a place like that so late at night. At first, they offered to take her back to your house, but Mary insisted that she couldn't go back, so she asked him to take her here instead.
And so that's how she got all the way to Mom and Dad's house?
That's right. And that's why I've been trying to get a hold of you since this morning.
Oh, shoot. Then did Mary's parents know about this too? I bet they're really pissed. Has anything else happened?
You really are the worst. Do you know that? You're only concerned about how any of this affects you, aren't you?
Well, duh. Have you met Mary's parents? They're really, really scary. You'd think they'd be nice to me for taking care of their cow of a daughter, though.
Joe, do you really not know where Mary's dad works?
He's just some old fool who works in a factory or something like that, right? I remember one time we went over to their house and he said something like that.
Joe, Mary's dad is one of the senior managers of his company. He only goes to factories to supervise them and make sure company policies are being implemented.
Wait. That can't be right. He's just some grunt on the assembly line, isn't he? There's no way that old fool is anyone important anywhere for anything.
Then I guess you also didn't know that he's the company representative in charge of making deals with your company.
You mean that my company is nice enough to give his company contracts for work?
You have it backwards, Joe. His company is much larger and only deals with your company because of shared history with the past company presidents.
Wait, you mean his company is the bigger one?
That's right. I think you screwed this up big time, Joe. And you are going to have to pay the price this time. It wasn't long after that when Mary's lawyers reached out to Joe to tell him that she wanted a divorce. He tried to beg her to stop and explain that this was all a big accident, but Mary knew that he was only saying that because he realized who her father was. Mary's father had a very long talk with some of the higher-ups on Joe's office who, in turn, talked to him about the consequences of his actions. The results were a very smooth divorce process for Mary and Joe. It turns out that Joe's attitude at work wasn't much better than his attitude at home. He was always showing up to work hungover, even still slightly drunk sometimes. Some employees even stepped forward and said that Joe had harassed them into going into his house to drink. They felt like they couldn't say no without pissing off someone who was their superior. That being said, they also reported on how they say Joe treated Mary at home. The results were a heavy demotion and pay cut for Joe. Honestly, there was very little difference between what they did and firing him. Now Joe works in the boiler room, which holds the company archives. He spends all day filing and organizing documents that haven't seen the light of day in decades. The only reason his bosses chose not to fire him, it turns out, was so that Joe would have the means to keep up with his child support payments for the next 18 years. Whether or not Joe has figured out that that's why he was kept on remains to be seen. In the light of the pay cut, Joe tried turning to his family for support, but they all knew what he had done to Mary, and no one was interested in lending a hand. It sounds like Joe is going to be trapped in a dead-end job all alone for a long, long time. As for Mary, she was able to safely give birth a couple of weeks later. She moved back in with her parents, who have been helping her raise the baby while she adjusts to the single life. Even though she wants nothing to do with Joe ever again, she still keeps in contact with his parents and sister, who do all they can to support Mary. Now, months later, Mary was able to return to her company, the same one that her father works for, and is easing herself back into a working schedule. Thankfully, her company has an in-house daycare for employees who are also parents, and that has made the whole process much, much smoother for Mary. She may have been nervous to resume her life after all that she had gone through, but cutting Joe out of her life only made her stronger. Mary realized just how much her low opinion of herself came from Joe's abuse, and she realized that she is much, much stronger and better off without him in her life, or her child's life, anymore. And it seems that many of Joe's relatives have also caught on to a similar idea. Thank you for watching. If you liked this video, please give it a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe to see more content like this.